Hi, welcome everybody to this week's edition of Carolina Poets. My name is Kimberly Sims and I am your host for tonight. I am one of the founders of Carolina Poets along with Andrew K. Clark. We started this event back in March of 2020 as a place to give authors of new books out and Carolina Poets a platform to share their work during a time when everyone's book tours had been canceled. Luckily, the world is getting back to normal and we have a lot more book tours happening. But we're still really excited to continue to present twice a month to you three poets who have new books out. And also to just give you an opportunity to kind of actually stay at home in your pajamas and still go to a poetry show. I am just going to chat for a few minutes here just because I want to give everyone a chance to get on the feed. I also want to mention some of our upcoming shows. Next time that you see us, it will be November the 11th, and we're going to actually do a NaNoWriMo edition. So definitely check that out. We'll be having fiction on Carolina Poets in celebration of NaNoWriMo. And then in November, it will be Thanksgiving. So we'll be taking Thanksgiving off. And then we will be back again on December the 9th with three more fabulous poets. We'll be having Paul Jones, Tom Johnson, and Pat Revere Seal. And then we'll see you again the second week in January. But we have a really exciting show for you all tonight. I'm super excited to be presenting some Poet Laureates for you. We're going to have Marcus Amaker, who is the Poet Laureate of Charleston, South Carolina. And then we also have Roscoe Burns, who is the Poet Laureate in Richmond, Virginia. I think that's correct. Yeah, in Richmond, Virginia. So we're really excited to present these two poets for you tonight. And tonight's event is actually in partnership with the Free Verse Poetry Festival. So this is a partnership between Wits and Poetry, the Free Verse Poetry Festival, and Carolina Poets. So you'll be able to watch this show not only on the Carolina Poets YouTube channel, but also on the Facebook page, Wits and Poetry, the Facebook page, Carolina Poets, and of course the Facebook page, the Free Verse Poetry Festival. But I've just been chatting away, giving folks a chance to get on the feed. We do have people watching across 3 different platforms, but I'm going to go ahead and introduce our first poet tonight, which is Marcus Emicker, who also has a brand new book out that he's going to be talking about this evening. Marcus Emicker is a poet, recording artist, and mentor. He is the author of 8 books of poetry, most recently, The Birth of All Things and Black Music Is, both on the Free Verse Press. He's the first Poet Laureate of Charleston, South Carolina, and Amicker's poetry has been interpreted for ballet, jazz, modern dance, opera, and theater, and has been recognized by the Kennedy Center, the Washington National Opera, the Portland Opera, Button Poetry, NPR, and others. He is the winner of a South Carolina Governor's Award and is the award-winning graphic designer of the National Music Journal, No Depression. He's a 2019 Artist in Residence of the Gaillard Center and the creator of the Free Verse Poetry Festival. In 2021, he received an Academy of American Poet Laureate Fellowship, and he currently lives in Charleston with his family. So I just want to give one more shout out to his new book, which is The Birth of All Things, and then also Black Music. So he's definitely going to be talking about this tonight. But let me go ahead, without any further ado, please put a warm welcome together for Marcus Amaker.
Heyo. All right.
So good to see you.
Yeah, it is good to be seen, you know.
Well, I can't wait to hear you. So I'm going to pop backstage and I'll see you in about 20 minutes.
Yeah, that's
actually, let me put myself backstage.
All right. Hey, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to this experience. My name is Marcus. I have been called a dad. I've been called a husband. I've been called the Poet Laureate of Charleston. But I'm here to be with you all right now for about 21 minutes or so. I'm going to give you all some new poems and a few old poems, but been really writing a lot lately, so I'm excited to test out some new work with you. First, shout out to Carolina Poets, to Kim, to Andrew, to Roscoe. Thank you all for having me on this. Also, I want to let you know about, I have a new book out called Black Music Is. It is a kid's book, but it's a book for all ages, really. And I worked with an amazing illustrator, Nathan Durfee, to do It's a poem and illustrations about different genres of music. So we talk about rock and roll, we talk about jazz, and it's a beautiful book, and I'm really excited that it is out there. So yeah, we'll drop a link to that in the chat. Thank you all for being a part of this and supporting poets. I'm gonna read some new work up front, and if you are an artist, some of your most favorite work is your newest work, and I really love these new poems. So this first one is called "Give Yourself Some Flowers," and I wrote it thinking about the fact that a lot of us look elsewhere for love, and sometimes it's right here. Maybe the hand that you're looking for is at the end of your arm. That's a line from a Prince song. Give yourself some flowers. And in the beginning, God gave your body a checklist. Keep your heart on beat and your lungs dancing with oxygen, not passive to air. Make sure the path of your blood slows down for checkpoints and avoids bumps in the road. Train your nerves to keep a balanced pace and stay within the lines of steady flow. Push forward without putting too much pressure on movement. Remember to return to water when your spirit and its frame are in drought. Treat your body like a well-rounded planet built for all seasons, or pretend you are an adaptable star. Float in the black and stay there if you need to. Save some light for yourself. In other words, rest like the sun does. Schedule some time to stay out of sight when too many people praise warm energy. Keep in mind all of these things when depression tells you nothing is working. Keep in mind all of these things when it tells you there is no invisible force connecting us, when your veins are stopped by blood clots, when your bones are dry and the water is too quick to boil. Keep in mind all of these things when it tells you that the soul is like the body, made to be broken, open to deterioration and doubt. Yes, keep in mind all of these things. And remember, even when it seems like the clock isn't ticking, you were made perfectly for this moment in time. Let's give yourself some flowers. This is another new um, one that I was thinking a lot about excess and how much we have in our homes, also how much we keep in our brains and in our minds and in our hearts. Sometimes we need to let go of some of this stuff. Kept and let go of. I've obsessed over so many things that eventually ended up in a landfill, like the fancy lamplight that never quite turned on, or the overpriced headphones that broke after I forced it to make too many connections, etc. and excess. I've zombie walked through stores with a rotting bank account and a credit card corpse, pulled the trigger on a purchase, then watched as it was dumped on my doorstep, dead on arrival. All of these things were laid to rest before their prime, under a pile of promises, before they were able to know the grace of living without the burden of survival. I guess everything dies except for capitalism. Even my mind is an assembly line of temporary junk. I've been mad at math for going under just because I'm drowning in earthly temptations. I have anxieties that shop me around like corporate parts, fears that have their place but only live in closet-like mental spaces, collecting dust until a new worry entices me with its spotless shine. All of this stuff will eventually be laid to rest when I realize I've spent too much time and money confusing treasure with trash. I've made room for things that ended up too heavy on my heart and hands to hold. It's a new one. I really like that poem. Like you write a poem and it's just one of those things you're like, wow, that felt good. That felt good to get out. Let's do another new one. I love testing these new poems out. This one is called The Creepy Crawlies. Cops hide behind the bushes of busy highways like cockroaches planning themselves in the shadow pathways of your home. Danger has an ego. It disguises itself in comfort, shifts restlessly in the folds, and waits for acknowledgement. Lights on, antennas up. Instantly, you realize you don't have the privilege of not being fearful. Immediately, you sit up and your palms start sweating, clutching the now slip stained handle of a steering wheel as you try to remember how much weight your foot can hold, how many times you've slammed your shoes to the door, how easy it is to confront death. Instead of you killing the bug kills you. And all of this murder reminds you of when you were young and the Bible told you, thou shalt not kill. Thou shalt not kill, I guess, unless it is a mosquito on your baby's forehead, the flight of thin wings resting after a wind-weary search for flesh. In that moment, you become executioner. A quick palm smack brings oblivion or bardo, no blood guilt or mercy, just death. Thou shalt not kill, I guess, unless it is that cockroach, the bug laureate, its slick brown skin soon to stain clean wall paint. The larger the body, the more brutal the murder, be it a sneaker or poison shot straight into the eyes, no blood guilt or mercy, just death. And thou shalt not kill, I guess, unless you are a policeman, and the slick brown skin that scares you belongs to a black body, still breathing before you become slayer. No blood guilt or mercy, just death. All right, exhale. Let's go with this new one. And this poem came from thinking about whether we have an experience before birth, whether there is a life experience or an existence or consciousness before birth. It's called Heavenly Nostalgia. Maybe we actually start from dust, particles of some heavenly universe before we form flesh and are forced to adjust, coming in loud, full of raw emotion into a world that hears the volume of our vibration, then tells us to hush and quiet the noise that attached itself to body and skin. This is how we all begin, before brushing off the magic that initiated from space. But when I look at the deep, miraculous mirror of your face, I remember that we are born with the black nostalgia of planets, thrust into a blue horizon of water and flesh, a steady seesaw of life and death, through never ending rhythms of parallel breath, held by the spirit hands of ancestors who passed the test, until we return to an Avalon memory, a flickering sound of echo energy, as wide as the shadow that blankets every night, spiraling up from a world that wants us to be afraid of heights. That's that one. Reading poems in a virtual world. I'm not sure I'll ever get used to it, but thank you for being here. This is one, a new one, again. I've been writing a lot, y'all. This is one about gentrification and having to sort of explain gentrification to somebody. When someone asks you why it hurts the earth to pull one flower from a field of flowers, tell them you are the lilac or the hibiscus, growing and sunbathing in a community of natural color, and you know a lot of kinfolk who have the same roots. Tell them your kind of people are earth people, and if there's anything you know, it's the pain of one of your petals being picked, of your home life disrupted by fires, bugs, concrete, or men who are too distracted by what's above them. Men who are too focused on skylines to notice their dirty shoes walking on sacred ground. So, yes, when one of us is uprooted or displaced from the soil that raised us, we feel it. Tell them you would feel it too, especially if the flower looked like you or was anywhere close to the same hue. All right, I'm having fun. All right, this one is called Kinfolk. This is another new poem. Just letting y'all have all the new stuff. I'm going to go to some old stuff after this. We assume that rolling over in a grave is the only way our dead kinfolk express trauma in the afterlife. Surely there's other methods for ghosts to let us know they are disappointed in the living and taking notice of earthside mistakes. Perhaps they could gift us with a haunting, a night terror in the middle of a daydream, or a cool death chill breath during meditation. Rolling over in a grave is a silent protest that never reaches the oppressor. It assumes the repressed are content with nothing more than minor movements inside rotting spaces, freely sleeping in man-made cages. It assumes we are satisfied with being walked over, as grave diggers take great care to not dig up or disturb uncomfortable bones. All right, I appreciate you all being here. I'm gonna do some more pieces. I have 3 more hours. No, I'm just kidding. I've got 3 more minutes. Let's go to a super old one, but one that I've been thinking about a lot lately. This is a poem for my friend Casey, who passed away probably a decade ago. The last time I saw you, you were a shadow of yourself, hiding the battle scars after declaring war on the ghosts that were moving through your body. We all would have gone on the front lines for you, but you had to do it alone. So you held on to your heartbeat like a weapon, smiling through the pain, even after your enemy claimed its name, cancer. A year and a half later, your ex-boyfriend tells me it's a shame that someone with so much life couldn't win the fight, so we drink and think of you and continue to train for the battle like it's the only thing worth fighting for. And now I sharpen my sword for your memory to cut through the silence that left you here after all the smoke cleared. Rest in peace, Casey Kane. This is another old one. It's about biking. I love to bike. It's called Pathways. This is so funny. Like, it's almost like I'm talking to myself, which I do from time to time. Okay. Pathways. You've been down this road before, lacing up your solitude and tightening down your shoelaces for the ride. And suddenly you remember what it feels like to fly after crawling around your house for days at a time. Shaking off the gray is clarity, and you gracefully flow in and out of color. Your hands are weary from coloring outside of the lines and ink bleeding through the pages of your life. The wind smacks you in the face, and you are awake, wide awake, no longer laying down for your dreams. It seems perfect. There are pathways for your heart to beat faster and faster, roads opening up to lead you somewhere, anywhere from the echoes of your home. The air is sweeter now. It flirts with you like a woman, winking at you through the breeze, and you pass by trees like years of your life, swaying back and forth for so many years you've lost count. Let go of your fears and you'll lose your balance. It beckons you to keep holding on with one hand at least, to stay on the path from a sidewalk to the open road. All right, so I'm going to do one more poem. Thank you all for being here again. And this poem is in my another recent book, The Birth of All Things. I released this in the middle of the pandemic, and I wrote this poem at the beginning of the pandemic. It's called 20 Till Infinity. Look at us, footsteps making echo sound on sidewalks, black men leaning in for a head nod instead of a handshake, loneliness as survival, curbside cocktails, men in masks walking pit bulls, parents loving and loathing, school shutdowns, cigarette smoke, dancing around silent porch gatherings, physical and emotional distance, paranoia as in, can the trees spread the disease? Ghost streets. Some of us taking slow breath in the middle of fast ration, dark mode option of the internet, moms with strollers, coffee, and cellular phones, bicyclists letting us in on the midday sun secret, still finding time to put on lipstick, mind and body going in circles, off balance, prayers up through pollution, Janet Jackson in headphones sampling Joni Mitchell's Big Truth chorus. This is how we chill from 2020 till. Thank you all. That's the end of my set.
Awesome. That was so great, Marcus. That was such a treat. Thank you so much for sharing with us. And don't go too far because at the end, I'm going to bring you back for a short discussion. But if people do want to buy your books, what is the easiest way for them to do that?
You can go to charlestonpoet.com. You can
Great.
also, do theblackjedi.com. But
Okay.
charlestonpoet.com.
And I'm imagining if they buy direct from the author, they get their book signed.
Yeah, and it's much, much better to do that for any author. I only get 31 cents per sale off of Amazon of my kid's book. Please buy it from me.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you, Marcus, and we'll see you back here in a little bit. That was so phenomenal. I'm so thrilled to have had Marcus on. He's been a longtime friend of mine, and I'm also super excited to bring up our next poet, Roscoe Burns, who I've also known for a very long time through the Poetry Slam scene and through his work as a nationally touring poet. He's been to Greenville before and performed at Coffee Underground, so I'm very excited to present him in this virtual format. He is a Richmond, Virginia native. Douglas Powell, aka Roscoe Burns, is a poet, published author, and spoken word artist. He's a TEDx speaker and educator, a father and husband who has dedicated his craft to entertaining and educating. He is the author of 3 books, Fighting Demons, Chrysalis Under Fire, and God, Love, Death, and Other Synonyms. He has also been published in over a dozen literary magazines and journals. As a slam poet, he has been a 2-time regional finalist in 2009 and 2014, a National Poetry Slam champion in 2014, the National Poetry Slam Group Piece finalist in 2018, and a New Pick Underground Slam champion in 2019. He's the founder and member of the Writers in Poetry Slam and Collective. Please give a warm welcome to Roscoe Brown.
Hey.
Hey.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, you sound great. Great. Well, we're super
I'm over here looking like
here.
Jared from State Farm with the headset on.
Well, you look great. I love that blue bookcase with the red shirt. It looks phenomenal. And if you would just kind of say, this is my last poem when you get to your last one, and then I'll pop back on in a little bit.
All right.
Thank you so much.
So, hey, everyone who I'm imagining is watching, the thousands and millions of you who are tuning in right now. Thanks for being a part of this. Thank y'all for having me. This is an honor, and so I'm very happy to be here. I'm going to be reading the majority of my work from this book here. It is my latest collection. It's called God, Love, Death, and Other Synonyms. I'm very proud of this work. Shouts out to 310 Brown Street, a small press. I won't say small press, but a newer press that is dedicated to actually helping spoken word artists kind of transition more to the page. So such a pleasure working with them, and I'm very proud of this collection. So I'll be reading a lot of my work from here. I'm going to be reading some pieces kind of in sets because they're kind of related, and I'll be leading into them with a diamante. So for those who don't know what a diamante is, it's a short form poem or micro poem, if you will. It is normally kind of shaped like a diamond in the way that you create the text, and it kind of follows a very rigid, fairly rigid structure with a noun at the beginning and end that are usually opposites of each other. And then in between, you'll have two adjectives, three verbs on the next line, and then either a sentence or four other nouns on the fourth line, and then the pattern repeats in reverse so you get to the end. So this isn't the best example, but it kind of ended up looking something like that. Anyway, here we go. This is the Death Love Diamante. Death, inevitable, unexplainable, frightening, intriguing, breathtaking, dark, light, slow, forever, encompassing, overwhelming, everlasting, beautiful, scary, love. And there's that diamante. Again, so the beginning noun and the ending noun have to be opposite of each other. And then the goal is to kind of create content in the middle that could kind of relate to either the beginning noun or the other. So I'm actually going to start this set by talking about mental health, more specifically depression, as I'm very transparent about my own mental health journey, and I have my Men to Heal shirt on, representing a local organization in Richmond, Virginia, that is dedicated to getting men to talk more about going to therapy and dealing with mental health issues like depression, like anxiety, like suicide ideation. I'm going to start this set with an after poem. There's a gentleman by the name of James Emmanuel. He has a poem called Negritude, where he uses one color to describe an assortment of things and emotions. I focus mine a little bit more on mental health towards the end. This piece is called Scarlet. Red was the first rose I ever loved. Red was the resurrected breathing. Red, Jesus speaking, Mama said. Red, from a book I stopped believing. Red, bang from the screaming gun. Red, the end to keeping it bottled inside. Red was Robin Williams' asphyxiated laugh. Red was Don Cornelius' last ride. Red flames from a tortured building. Red tears bleeding the pain. Red protest from fed up fist. Red roar over black bodies slain. Red was my first step on stage. Red luminous body I became. Red fire burning in my gut. Red was a proud buzzing neon name. Red blood bandaged my poems. Red poems from bloody depression. Red pounding headache, screeching silence. Red clownish grin, face painted expressions. Red is the writer who's lost his purpose. Red, the drenching saltwater odyssey. Red veins that want to cry. Red, the way the artist dies. And that is Scarlet, out of God, Love, Death, and Other Synonyms. I talk often about depression and my personal journey with it, and I'm very proud to say that I'm still here to tell my story. And hopefully, the goal is to share this, share my pain and share my trials and what I've been able to overcome, in hopes that it will also inspire someone to keep going. I'm a big fan of comedy. I mentioned Robin Williams in the last piece. It was one of the celebrity deaths that took me by surprise and really was really impactful. And as I had been a fan of his for years in both his movies and his stand-up. So this piece, and now I'm dabbling in comedy in my own career, and I understand how much we pull from pain in order to make people laugh. This is Depression Does a Set. For Robin Williams, for Mitch Hedberg, for Freddie Prinze, and all the comedians who gave us life and laughter even when they were dying inside. You know, I make jokes about death more often than I should. I laugh. I kid. I have to. You have to find a way to chuckle when you stacked your body weight in suicidal thoughts, or plans, or actions. When all the setups sound like a death drop, you are scared to talk, and you become your favorite comedian. It sounds crazy. Sounds crazy, but you laugh. Fuck crying. Crying is so 5 overdoses ago. I mean, morbid humor, that's the new black, and it's much more vibrant than my last depression. And ain't that the showman's curse? The colorful cast of comic relief, a prism casting a colorful retort under a spotlight, a searchlight to the prison of my mind, and I am a death penalty waiting to happen. What I mean is, sad people just make people sad. Instead, here's this hilarious passive aggressive cry for help. Okay, I got a joke. What do you get when you mix 13 painkillers and a noose, rope burn, and a good night's sleep? And that's comedy. That's coping. That's burying scars, but better to bury than to be buried, I always say. I always say, if you can't laugh at the pain, then what can you do with it? You can't load a revolver with it. Your hands shake too much. You can't punchline your car into a tree. The airbags can't take a joke. I got another one. What do you call a day's worth of suicide attempts? Well, if you do it right, then you call it your last day. You do it wrong, you call it a long day. The next day in the world will call it a cry for attention. I've been asked, why would you make light of something so dark? But when life feels asphyxiating, you're excited just to breathe. This looks like laughing. This is gasping for air. A grateful sigh when I think about how many times the idea of death has been another gag. Okay, last one. What do you call a hilarious pun about suicide? A real wrist splitter. Do you know what I envy about that joke? It's how it always flatlines. And that is that piece. I know it's really heavy, really soon, y'all. Just ride with me. There's more, and it gets better. We start low and we go up. This is your brain. This is your brain on depression. Dopamine on sedatives, where the high is low is the high, and you're addicted to hating yourself. All the thoughts are scrambled, cracked, thin shell, disregarded and left for dead. A greasy dismay, where your sunny side is over easy. No matter how many lovers order you optimism, your bed is a frying pan where emotions become crispy and dark, and it becomes impossible to scrape you from it. It's like it's an abusive relationship with confidence. An island where you lay beached, hoping for ships lost, ships wrecked, ships crashed on the shore, floating waste because no one wants to be trapped on the sand alone. It is an echoing plea in a hollow hallway during a blackout in a now forgotten city after a riot. Depression is desolate's playlist, a jukebox full of Nirvana and Hathaway, a quiet cry in a loud mind, a loud cry into empty and stored for later. It is break only in emergencies and always broken. It is grumbling to God but not believing in the prayer. It is strung out on why me, but never sober enough to want an answer. That is that piece. I have a short 6-word story I'm gonna do before I get into this next one. Every poem, a death, a resurrection. That is six-word story. For those who don't know what a six-word story is, it is also a micro poem. It is a statement or series of statements about a particular topic, particularly a moment in your life, but it has to consist of 6 words and 6 words only. So here's the upswing. um, this is a lesson plan on conquering depression. You stare at the mirror, naked, point out all the best and all the worst, physical or not. You realize that the mind and the body are similar in the sense they are both made of clay. You can be a potter's hands. You cry, but do not weep in vain. Hide everything sharp, the knives, the scissors, the razors, mistakes, regrets, that little voice, the little voice in the back of your head, and then you build. All right, you build castles from salt water and sand. You pack tight because depression comes in waves. You construct a strong foundation in knowing this too shall pass. And then you breathe. Now listen, I know you guys aren't right in front of me, but I need you to breathe with me. We're going to inhale. You live even through the death. You lie. You lie to all the lies and you make them believe you real boys someday. You tell them every time their nose grows, they are 1 inch closer to cutting the strings. And you repeat. I am not depressed. Depression is death. I am alive. I am alive. I live. And you love. You be honest. You be honest to your loves. You love honestly and you let those honest loves love you. You stare at the sky when you walk. It will still be grimace and gasp on the first attempt because self-esteem has been a pinched nerve. It is patience that heals. And then you breathe. Again, I need y'all to breathe with me. You ready? You create. You create instead of just wishing for better days. Because wishing is for stars and children. Wishing doesn't go anywhere. Wishing withers and wilts. Wishing has no blossom. Wishing is a verb, but wishing is not an action. So you write until your hands can only grip pencils and pens and loved ones. And you write, I am more than Vicodin and Hennessy. I am more than the nameless orgasms. I am more than the notches carved into wrists and thighs. I am more than my last kiss to a puckering barrel. You read all the suicide notes buried like old love letters. Read them with a mouth full of puns. You read them ridiculous until you can't take this blue funk seriously anymore. And then you breathe. You stare, you cry, you build, and you breathe. You live, you love, you stare, you breathe, you create, you write, you read, you breathe, you repeat, you repeat, you repeat, you repeat, repeat. That is that poem. I told you it gets better, right? There's the resilience. I'm a firm believer in resilience. And I believe in talking about the dark moments and not running away from them and embracing them, knowing that there's resilience at the end, knowing that you will make it through another day, knowing that you will continue. You will make the deliberate decision to continue to move forward. It is not easy, but it is necessary, and you are necessary. And so I appreciate you all for still being here. Deep breathing is underrated. Deep breathing is very underrated. So make sure you breathe, everybody. I know it sounds silly, but make sure you breathe. Remember to breathe. So I'm going to finish this out on kind of a spiritual note. I have 2 more poems, and then we will move forward. And again, thank you, guys, for being here and sticking with us. And I really appreciate this. To open this set, this is the God Love Diamante. This is a better, I don't know if you guys can see this. This is a much better my light wasn't so form. So it kind of ends up being shaped like a diamond, which is why it's called a diamante. Diamante means diamond or diamond shaped. So God loved diamante. So God, perfect, powerful, all knowing, all seeing, judging, invisible, feeling, glory, peaceful, trust and communicating, absolute, solid love. So normally a diamante has two words at the beginning and end that are opposite of each other, and so I chose God and love on purpose to create contrast. But I firmly believe that when we talk about God, what we are in fact talking about is love, and in all of its and all that it entails, because love is not perfect, and neither are we. So I actually do not need my book for these last two pieces, but I do want to encourage you guys to check this out online, or you can go to my website, roscoeb.webs.com, and you can contact me personally, and I will mail you a copy. So in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God, and the Word was with God. So when I'm speaking these words, this isn't poetic rhetoric. This is me trying to get back to the sentence from which I came. Love. Love is two or three different, more concrete emotions all rolled into one mass, combined with flesh and speech to create man, because in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was love, because God is love. So I love you the way God does, like forever, like no end, because God, love, is infinite, and we were made in this image of infinite love. So in a search, in a search to find myself, not only had I never left, but I have been looking in the eye of I the entire time, just waiting on me to speak the word so the God in me could be revealed. This is self-love. It's what you need first before you go looking for God in someone else. So here's some questions. Like, if God sees all, how can love be blind? Or if I'm looking for true love, does that mean I'm looking for a true God if in fact God is love? Or if God is love and this is true, how come we look up to find God, but we fall into love? I mean, when did we learn to separate the two? Or if we make love, have we formed God inside the room? Is this the never before explained immaculate conception of God and intercourse of universes colliding, planet first, emitting bursts of energy so far beyond known to flesh and bone that we put it on a throne? I have only known love to be that powerful. So it changed everything, even changed the way I pray. Like dear love, I guide you. Guide me as only you could. So many people run from you and mistreat the vessels in which you are contained because they are told to fear God, which makes them fear love. So they go through life never being able to understand God, never being able to feel love. Even church told me to fear God and ask why. How do I love you and fear you at the same time? It didn't make sense, so I had to be born again. I've been dying to find you. I mean, shucks, every suicide attempt had been me just dying to find you, and often we are too far gone. We are so far gone that we can't see where God is anymore. And this is why we look for love in all the wrong places. So in hopes that everyone finds their one true God, in love's name I pray. Amen. And that is at peace. I have one more. I'm going to get into it really quickly. And I'm looking forward to whatever questions you guys may have. Here we go. My mother has a heart full of batteries. An active morning, it leaves her drained. It leaves her out of breath. She stays plugged into the bed through most of the afternoon and recharging most days. Well, it takes all evening, and she uses these moments to read scripture and talk to Jesus. My mother owes her life to her faith, would often ask me to take her to church on Sundays. She remembers all the times she's died when resurrection has been a defibrillator, laying hands on her. She thanks God for all the transformations, never the doctors. I recently watched something about how often religious text gets doctored, how holy books undergo transformations. I read a lot about scripture. Found there were 14,800 differences between the original Bible and its most modern version. that there is no mention of Christ's return in its earliest rendition, that the similarities between Christianity and Egyptology are uncanny, and most religious holidays linked to Christ are pagan and have nothing to do with Christ at all. After all this, I became agnostic, not atheist. I didn't choose to believe in nothing, not that there's anything wrong with that. I just chose to stop looking to the pigeonhole that is religion. Felt a huge word like God was too big to put in a chapter book. I use terms like the universe now. I don't really pray as much as I meditate, and I figured if Jesus, Muhammad, and Moses didn't need a Bible, Quran, or Torah, then maybe I should follow suit. Now, at one point, I thought I had to educate my mother on everything that I had learned, right? Truth about King James, religious fear mongering, the origin of Satan. And since then, well, my mother has stopped asking me to take her to Sunday service. Says that she's praying for me. Never specifies what she's hoping is going to happen. She thinks I'm an atheist. She has never heard the word agnostic. And I was starting to think there were 14,000. There were 14,800 differences between my mother and me. When the surgeon said there was no mention of her return, I responded like muscle memory, like scripture, "O ye of little faith," and realized the similarities between her and I are uncanny, that the little bit of gospel I still have inside is pagan, has nothing to do with Christ at all. It was after watching cardiac arrest leave her chest split like a Red Sea after cancer, and been a nail in our family's palm, and every man in her life be one Judas after another. These things made me doubt the Lord, overcoming to make her believe in God more. Maybe she's blind. Maybe she's blind, right? Maybe I'm blind. Maybe I'm blind. Or maybe faith is about being blind and trusting everything you feel. She called it God. I call it the universe. She found it in a book. I found it in her. Look, I've learned too much about the Bible to always believe in it. She's gone through too much in life not to. My mother passes down the same Bible that she swears kept her alive, and I'm going to read it all the way through one day when they add a chapter, when they add a book about my mother. I am agnostic, not atheist. There are times I've seen too much to believe in God, but I have watched my mother be God too much not to believe in something. That's my time. I appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Roscoe, tell us again how we can get your books.
So you can go to my website and you can contact me personally. The website is in the chat there, roscoeb.webs.com. They're also available on Amazon and things of that nature, but of course, I'd rather you buy it from me. And yeah, they can hit me up, and then my social media, all of my social media is at Roscoe Burnems. So Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. I'm not really on Twitter, but all the things. I'm on all the social things.
Well, great. Well, I'm going to bring Marcus back on here. Wonderful job, both of you guys. Oh my gosh, this was such a treat.
Beautiful work, Roscoe. It was excellent work.
Same. I really enjoyed you. I put it in the little private chat when you hit that line. It was like a rotting bank account, credit card, corpse. Like that just hit me in the chest.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Yeah, I think that's the thing that a lot of people can speak to and relate to. So, word.
Very cool. And there were definitely a lot of common themes that I heard in both of your works that I felt that y'all were really complemented each other with all the things you were talking about. But also, you're both poet laureates. And so one question I did want to ask is, what's something that what's a project or, opportunity that you've had since you've been a poet laureate that you're pretty proud of?
All right. Well, I'll go first. So just being able to start a poetry festival here in Charleston felt really good to me, and have some resources and money go to poets as a result of that feels really good. So one of my one of the joys of my life is putting on a poetry slam for middle and high school students, and to have them come and read on like this big stage, but to be able to give them money for writing poems, I think needs to be a normalized thing, because we're still told that, being an artist means that you're going to be a starving artist. And I'm like, no, I eat fine, so um, yeah,
Flex. Come
like
on, Marcus.
my belly is full. So I think that it's important that younger poets know that as well. So yes, starting the poetry festival in Charleston was a big deal for me.
Awesome. And you became Poet Laureate in what year?
1852, it feels like.
That's what I thought.
No, but it was 2016.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's right. Because I think 'cause you've been doing that for a little bit. Roscoe, now, what year you're kind of a newer Poet Laureate. I mean, not that new, but
No, very new. No, seriously, like very new, like this year.
okay.
Nice.
So and then Richmond, Virginia has never had a poet laureate before. So I am also the first poet laureate, and so now I'll be serving this term until 2023.
Awesome.
So really proud of that. It's come with a lot of ups and downs, but I'm proud to kind of set the tone for the city and what's to be expected from them as well as the artists. And so kind of something similar. So we're planning a large high school citywide tournament, poetry slam tournament amongst all the high schools. So we'll be like pairing up schools with other spoken word artists to coach, mentor, help them write craft poems, and then we'll be putting those schools against each other in a friendly game of slam. We are also currently doing a mural project, attaching ekphrastics, attaching poems, more specifically spoken word pieces to murals that exist in the city, and then organizing a tour of the murals throughout the city. So another great opportunity for the poets to be working with some visual artists, which is a little different than what they may have normally been doing. And we reached out to some youth poets as well as some OGs to come through and be a part of that. And then Richmond, Virginia put on its first big money slam, inviting not only some local artists, but some, from some very like popular poets from across the country to compete for a grand total of about $1,700.
Wow. Yeah. You've been busy.
Extremely.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome. That's awesome. Can I ask you a question about the mural project? Now, is part of their poem in the mural, or are they like scanning a QR code to watch the poem?
So Mending Walls is a nonprofit collective that does a lot of work centered around like social justice. So they did this huge mural project in 2018 and 2019. Excuse me. And since then, they've been trying to reactivate these murals. And so they did a podcast, and they did all these other cool things centered around the journey of these murals, particularly because they brought together artists from different cultures to work together to create them. So sitting with the founder of that organization, I said, well, how would you like to add like a spoken word element to that or a performative element to that? So these murals exist already. They're all kind of centered around social justice, ending police brutality, creating equity. They're all kind of centered around that. And so we took 10 poets, from all different backgrounds, young and old, all different cultures, and assigned them a mural to write and then perform in front of.
Wow, I love that. I love that idea. That's so awesome. And let me ask you another question, because Roscoe, you mentioned, of course, that you're the first Poet Laureate, and it's just recently happened. And Marcus, you were the first Poet Laureate of Charleston as well. What would you say to other cities who are thinking about having a Poet Laureate? Like why should more cities be getting on board, Greenville, South Carolina, with having Poet Laureates?
Yeah, well, I've seen the benefit of going into classrooms and saying that, and even if the students don't know what that means, after you tell them what it means, there's just this recognition of, I can do this too. And I think that that's the most important part of, in my mind, the work that we do as poets. Like, this is such an intimate art form. It is also an art form that anybody can do, I think. So especially for students, I think that is important for them to realize that they can attain this goal. So it just opens up a whole new world. And once you give students the creative freedom to write, they really, really express themselves. And I believe that it's a healthy way to deal with the things that a lot of
Mm,
people go through.
yeah,
So being here like a poet laureate in a way is a enriching the mental health of your city. Like it just really,
absolutely.
yeah, it really helps a lot of students, and it helps a lot of people sort of work on themselves in, I think, a really healthy way. So
Mm,
I've just seen the benefit as far as that goes. And then two, um, to value artists. Like imagine that. I mean,
yes.
we all love art. We all love movies and songs and blah blah blah. But it is important also to love poets and to show us that we are worth something. So
Yeah.
yeah, having that love from a city is a wonderful thing, and I think every city needs to have it, and keep it going. I mean, there is a lot of, in my mind, any sort of title that you get can be turned into an ego trip. But it is important that this is more about the art than the person. And
Mm.
poets are like, poetry is not going to die. So it should just keep on going through things like this.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Roscoe, what about you?
I don't know if there's too much I can add to that. It was a very like thorough response, and we're kind of on the same wave. I think it's healthy for a city to have it. I think poetry is an undervalued art form, and I think that happens because there's not enough of it present in a city. And I think once you create a position like this and you're able to kind of bring some recognition to what this art form can be, um, then other people realize, or the city realizes, honestly, that there's a huge desire for more of it. You know what I mean? We were able to put on a really successful poetry slam and some other events too, not related to slam, and they were packed. And so and we were able to kind of bring this to the city and be like, look at what we were able to do, and especially in such a short amount of time. And now they know that there's a desire for this to exist.
Yeah.
Um, and it brings other poets, it brings new poets out. You know what I mean? Things like that bring new poets out, and it keeps the art form alive. I'm in schools a lot. I'm an educator outside of just being a performance artist. And to Marcus's point, it's like kids don't know that this exists sometimes, or they don't know
Mm.
what they can do with it, and then they see it in front of them, and whether it's just poems on paper or they see it on a stage, they see themselves in that, and that's inspiring, and that creates a new generation of storytellers, a new generation of writers, and a new generation that's going to inspire the next one. And it is a very vulnerable art form. It is a very intimate art form, and it's designed to help heal. These stories that we bring to a page or in front of an audience are for one, healing ourselves, right? I think it all kind of, it always starts with healing ourselves and loving ourselves, and trying to make it through our own obstacles. But in doing so, you
Mm.
help somebody with their journey as well. And in order to keep that going, you have to continue to push the art form forward and create more spaces for more artists who want to do that as well.
Mm, absolutely, absolutely. Oh my gosh. And I mean, hopefully in the future, we're going to see even more cities, create their own city poet laureates.
Yeah.
And really, too, thinking about the future, what do you think might be some trends in the future for poet laureates? And because I feel like we have more city poet laureates than we used to. So kind of what do y'all think is next?
Oh, wow. Well, I hope what's next is just a normalizing of the art form. I mean, this art form has been around for a long, 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 long time, but still, like normal media, which gets a lot of things wrong, but normal media still sort of treats it like it's sort of magic and it's new. And wow, there's black folks talking about social justice. Whoa, like we've been doing this for a long time. So I just hope with more poets laureate that there are just a normalizing of this art form, and that way it gets integrated into other art forms more. And it's just a normal thing to have like rock star poets walking around
Yeah,
and everything.
yeah.
So I just, yeah, I hope that happens before I kick the bucket.
I think, and maybe this is larger than just a poet laureate, but what I'd like to see is more spaces dedicated to the craft. So the same way that Richmond has like an artist district, right, and they have all these galleries that the city pours a lot of money into maintaining and creating. I would love to see more spaces like that dedicated to poetry and dedicated to
Definitely.
spoken word.
That would be awesome.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, I would love to see that. I do want to see poetry exist in more spaces. I know a lot of times, at least coming up, and particularly in our generation, I think we're all kind of come from the same kind of same time frame. But like poetry was in coffee shops, and poetry was at the local bar, and poetry, open mics and poetry slams were happening in these kind of like little hole in the wall spaces and underground spots and little bohemian areas, and that's cool and all, but I want to see poetry exist in more theaters and arenas. I want to see poetry, headlining at Madison Square. You know what I'm saying? Like, I want poetry to kind of be elevated and respected in a way that we get from other genres.
Right.
And I think it has the potential, and I think this is just kind of like one step in the right direction with more cities introducing more poet laureates and putting a larger focus on poetry, especially the performative side of it.
Absolutely. And I think you're right. I mean, I do feel like we're on this kind of upward trajectory trend. So, I mean, I've seen a lot of changes, in my lifetime to poetry. So it's really exciting. I do want to give one little shout out here. South Carolina is supposed to be picking a new poet laureate. So if you're watching right now, please write a letter to the governor of South Carolina and please tell him to make a decision.
Yeah, right.
Because that's one thing we're waiting on right now. We do not currently have a state poet laureate in South Carolina. So definitely, if you're watching right now, please call your local legislator and ask them to nudge the governor into picking a new poet laureate, because I think I'm sure Marcus can attest to this. Margie Wentworth did a phenomenal job,
perfect.
And we're ready to have a new state poet laureate as well, definitely. But I did want to finish with one final question. What are you guys working on personally? Because I know when you're the poet laureate of your city, you end up doing a lot of community-based projects. So what are you working on as individual artists as well?
Okay.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Go ahead, Marcus. If you want to go ahead, that's fine.
Oh, no, man.
Go ahead, Roscoe.
Yeah.
So I'll tell you. So in 2019, we filmed my first poetry and comedy special. So it's like a 1 hour set of stand up and spoken word. That is now currently streaming on Amazon Prime. Kind of a first of its kind, and I'm really, really proud of it. I think it kind of puts poetry in a new space. And so I want to create more endeavors like that. So we just wrapped up the filming for my second special. It's called My Life as a Black Dad. Thanks. It's called My Life as a Black Dad. Still poetry mixed in with some stand-up comedy, but it's centered around like the Black experience in America and how that affects me as a parent. And then we'll be moving forward to do some more projects like that. And then even outside of that, like I'm going to be kind of on the producing, kind of directing end of helping more poets create more projects, more visual projects like that. So we have some other plans in the works for other poets who want to, not necessarily poetry and comedy, but want to bring, want to create projects, spoken word based projects that can be on a streaming platform like an Amazon or Tubi or Netflix, things of that nature. So again, putting poetry in more spaces, making it more visible. That's really really my goal. My city said I'm supposed to publish a book before my term is out, but we'll see what happens.
Awesome. Yeah, definitely kudos to getting, poetry on more Netflix, Amazon Prime. It's so easy. It's been a long time since the Def Poetry Jam show, so I'm really excited to see a lot more of that happening. Awesome. Awesome. Marcus.
That is wonderful work. That's wonderful work, Rob.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I just wrote an opera that had a premiere in the DC area. And so that opera was just filmed, and that film is going to be coming out on streaming platforms and stuff. And that opera is going to be performed in other cities, like in, Colorado, Birmingham, some other cities and stuff like that. So that was cool. Like I never really done an opera, before, but somebody transformed my words into a full opera thing. So yeah, my family and I got to travel to DC and like see the White House and stuff. And yeah, so that's been cool. And I think that opera is gonna have a big life. I just finished an album with Quentin Baxter, who won a Grammy a couple of years ago. He's a jazz drummer, so our third album is coming out sometime early next year. I do electronic music, and I just finished an amazing but weird album that I'm going to be, dropping soon.
Awesome.
And I started, and I did a book last year, and this book this year, and had a short film last year. I don't know how I sleep. How do I sleep?
You don't sleep. You have a small child.
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, like I'm proud to have this workout. Like I did there was a short film made for an album that I did that's out there. And also I'm publishing work from other poets as well. So I'm excited about that, just to share that publishing experience, because I've been doing it for a while. So yeah, there's a call for poems and on my website for folks to get their books out.
Well, Roscoe, you know who you need to talk to if you need to get, your head around this whole book thing.
Yeah, I can definitely help. Yeah. So.
Yeah, definitely.
Not that you don't already have several books out, but
no, I'll take all the help I can get.
Yeah, I can help you. Yeah.
Well, this has been just such a joy to have you both on here. I so appreciate y'all taking the time out of your busy lives, creating, to share your work with the people of the Carolinas here. For those of you watching, we are here usually the second and fourth Thursday. Of course, we'll just be monthly for December and November due to the holidays. But we are Carolina Poets, and my name is Kimberly Sims. Please be sure to buy some books. Because that is the bread and butter of our poets. Put some gas in their tanks, some extra food on the table, some diapers on those babies, and buy their books. Definitely. Marcus, is there anything finally you want to say before we jump off here tonight?
Listen to Alice Coltrane. Yeah.
Awesome. Roscoe, what about you?
That's all I got.
I know this is gonna sound kind of cheesy, but please follow me on social media.
Yeah.
I have a lot of things going on, and I want support. I need support, and I'm doing a lot of pretty cool stuff, and I'm kind of funny too sometimes. So
and when you're in the public eye, followers matter. So tell us what is at Roscoe Burnems? Is that what your social media tag is?
Yeah. So at Roscoe Burnems, RoscoeBurnems on pretty much all social media.
Right. And Marcus, you're at Charleston Poet, is that right?
Charleston Poet, yeah, on Instagram. I just recently rejoined Twitter, and I don't like it, so I might just get off of Twitter.
I feel you.
Yeah.
I feel you.
Twitter is. Yeah. I mean, it is a scroll. It is a doom scroll.
It is a thing.
It's crazy.
Yeah, I'm on Twitter, but I'm not.
yeah. Word. But definitely Instagram is where I'm at.
And we're Carolina Poets. This reading was sponsored by Wits End Poetry and the Free Verse Poetry Festival. The Free Verse Poetry Festival is still happening in Charleston, so definitely go to the Facebook page. And Marcus, is that Free Verse Festival? That's the Facebook for that?
Free Verse Festival, yep.
Great. And also definitely check out our Facebook pages, Carolina Poets, and Wits End Poetry on Instagram and Facebook. We will be back here in November for our first ever fiction edition for NaNoWriMo. We're going to be celebrating some fiction for the NaNoWriMo November. So if you're writing your book a day, I guess page a day, whatever it is, or NaNoWriMo, definitely come check out the fiction. Anyways, thank y'all again for being here, and we will see you here in a few weeks. My name is Kimberly Sims, and y'all have a great night.